chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. Happy Monday to everybody. Yes. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. Voices of the Islands, conversations for the world, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina, and this evening, the aim of this evening's discussion, I aim to confront a question that cuts to the hearts of justice, sovereignty, and community safety. I have been watching all of the commentary based on Friday's headlines of a young man, Devonte Hernandez, who was gunned down in broad daylight outside a Georgetown liquor store, a crime that we know shook our nation and left a family grieving. Now, the man convicted, as was actually published on Friday, for his murder is a Jamaican national, and that national is now sentenced to life in a Cayman prison. So I'm looking at the comments, and something struck a chord by saying, why not just look into this and respond to some of the commentary that I've been seeing? Because some of you are asking, should he serve his time here or be sent back to Jamaica? And is justice about location or accountability? Is our prison system equipped to carry this weight, understanding what's happening right there? And what does it mean for the families left behind when justice feels distant or even in some cases may seem diluted? So tonight we break down in plain terms, I will do my best, the legal, with no legal jargon, just the truth, compassion, and clarity. Welcome again. This is Sabrina Speaks, and we're asking or discussing some of the hard questions that Cayman needs to face, and we will be right back after this short message.
Infrastructure is more than roads and buildings.
It's our lifelines connecting East End to West Bay, Cayman to Little Cayman, and the Cayman Islands to the world.
It established the route to get our children to school, keep our hospitals powered, and support our businesses every day.
Through hard work, ingenuity, and perseverance, people make that happen.
From the early pioneers who paved the first paths and laid the first pipes,
to the innovators who modernize water, energy, telecoms, ports, and our airport.
they're the quiet hands that build resilience.
And the vision that keeps Cayman going strong.
Now it's our turn to recognize them. Know someone who built, maintained, or improved the Cayman Islands we love?
Nominate them today at gov.ky/YSCH. Click Nominate Today.
Welcome back to Sabrina Speaks on this Monday. It is indeed, and I'm sending happy Monday to all of my friends, and also taking this opportunity as well to wish everyone who's celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday, or who have celebrated a birthday over the weekend. I want to wish you all and hope that, you have had an enjoyable birthday and everything is working out. So yeah, it is just that time where we have to give thanks, and definitely every day above ground. Oh my goodness, it is a blessing. No matter what life throws at you, it is a positive outlook, and you just how you face it. It is how it is. I want to take this opportunity though, as we celebrate birthdays. We know that there may be some amongst us, um, who are mourning right now. And one particular family goes out, and that is the family of the late Miss Gwen. Sincere condolences go out to her family and friends and loved ones. She's the mother of Walling Whitaker, Cherry, Troy, and Teresa. And also sincere condolences, all from us here, to her siblings, Mr. Jose, that's Jose, Kirchman, Norma, and Antonia, and Rogelio. So our sincere condolences goes out to you in the loss of Miss Gwen. She's well known, definitely. Even if you don't know her, you may have come across her son and her kids. But when one hurts, we all hurt. So sincere condolences from all of us here at Sabrina Speaks. And I know this may be a little late, but I still have to do it because you've reached out, you've asked, and I was contacted by someone who on or around the 2nd of September at Foster's Food Fair at the airport, around the hours of 8 p.m., $200 were actually lost, like cash. And they're appealing to find out if anyone may have just by chance found this money. I know it's October. That's okay. It does not matter. Just in case somebody may have actually found this money. Please, 936-8255 is a number you can actually reach out to us. Let's get this funds back, or that you may know someone who may have found it and have turned it in. You can either reach us directly here at Sabrina Speaks, or definitely Cayman Mall Road, anyone. We're all here with reuniting people with pets, lost wallets. We see all of the great stories here. Now, this would be history because this was lost on September 2nd, and in the area of Foster's Food Fair at the airport. And let's see what we can do. Yeah. Let's see who's here with us commenting early this evening. It's always good to have you comment. It doesn't make me feel like I'm alone. O'Neill, yeah. Good evening to you. Delcy, hi. Oh, you're out in Miramar. What's it like over there? Thank you so much for tuning in. When you actually take me along with you and tune in, that speaks volumes, but it's always good to have you join us. Hi, Connie. How are you? Hope you had a good weekend. Yes. Yeah, I try to do it. You see the backdrop? What's your take on the backdrop? It's doing a little mix going into Thanksgiving. The Cayman Islands here, we don't celebrate, we don't have seasons, but definitely we're feeling a difference. We're giving so much thanks because, knock on wood, hurricane season has treated us well. So far, we're just going to keep it like that, because it only takes one. But yeah, so I'm just trying to do my little thing there, and I'm trying to get something for October. Just goes into that. Oh, just to remind you, this month we're celebrating with the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens, and this is their entire calendar for the month. Yesterday, they kicked off their events with a church service, and earlier today, they were at the Georgetown General Health Practice Clinic as well. Now that ended at 12, but here's a list of all of the month's activities. And Thursday, they'll be doing an awareness meeting at the Savannah United Church Hall, where they actually talk, educate. You're there, you can network, you can get information. And then on Friday the 10th, they will be at East End Health Clinic. But again, you can look at all of go on their social media pages, Facebook, and they will have it there. I'm hoping that I will get some testimonies or testimonials and hear some fascinating stories throughout this month of October in celebration, because we do have warriors out there to get some stories, hoping it will inspire, encourage, and touch you to the face of this. Early detection really, really helps. And the entire month, we are going to dedicate at least half hour, maybe twice a week, once the persons are available, to share their stories with you. Not everybody is willing to just come on a platform like this and really start talking. And I respect that. But for those who have no problem in sharing their journey, sharing their story with you, I'm solidifying those dates and giving them like half hour, 45 minutes before the topics of our show. If it's a fact that it goes on and you want to hear more, then I'm willing to change accordingly. But I would be more than happy to share some personal stories of those who are battling breast cancer or cancer, period. This is the space for you. This is the month recognizing breast cancer awareness. But we can speak about it here, and I'm offering this space, and I'm hoping that we will have some excellent interviews to share with you, and as we navigate this space together, because we know that somebody or some family will be impacted by that diagnosis, and we just want to know that we don't only recognize you for the month of October, but this month is dedicated for that. We're going to showcase them here. But at any time on this forum, I am honestly looking forward to really just showcase some of these people. And when those proper times allow, we can dedicate shows to different medical topics as well. So, hey, why not? But I'm going to keep it real, and I'm going to definitely keep you all in tune. So yes, real Michelle, hello. Looking forward to another engaging and informative show. I'm going to do my best here this evening. I know it can get a little bit emotive. And what I'm understanding, or I'm quickly realizing with my community in this space. Hi, Deborah. How are you? Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. What I'm realizing is that out of respect, or it's just a culture, that it all depends on the topic that you really, really become engaged. Sometimes I gauge it based on the time of the day, and others it's because it's so informative. What I'm getting though over the weekend is that people are actually shocked at the level of information that I'm sharing. And many a times it takes them a little while to process, oh my God, that's a fact. And this is one of them, because I was looking at some of the comments after that article was posted with the results of the sentencing of the gentleman that murdered that young man in Georgetown. And we're looking at our overcrowded prisons and all of that sort of stuff. And I'm like, Sabrina, this is a space where you're going to educate, where you're going to inform, delicate. It's very emotive, and we got to have respect for the family. But again, it's not delving into the case. It's delving into the subject as to what happens to a jurisdiction when someone is convicted in our court, as we saw played out here, and they received a life sentence. Can you actually just boot that person off? Can they get deported? Yes, they can, but how does that work? And break it down for you, because it is still very topical. I'm seeing the discussions based on the article, and I thought it would be fitting to educate, inform, but to look at it, and also with dignity and respect to the family of this young man. For the record, I know the family very well, very, very well. So I know that they will not take my approach as insensitive, because I'm not delving into the particulars of the actual case. It's based on where or how the Cayman Islands align with this person that got convicted of now facing a life sentence here in our Cayman Islands prisons. And as some of you are saying, we have to feed them, and he committed this crime. He's not from here. He was deported from Canada. Why did he ended up here? We're not going into all of that. I'm just looking, I'm keeping it insular, respectfully, to talk about and even share with you sentencing guidelines in the prison law and that sort of stuff, and the penal code as well. So I'm hoping you can understand why I felt it was important. And later on this week as well, we're going to have some other very interesting topics as well, that's going to probably blow your socks off even more. So 936-8255 is the number to call in should you require more clarity. You can always comment here on Facebook, because definitely what we will be sharing here is going to be very informative. And, like everything else that we do here, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, or participants, is intended for general and informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for your specific concerns. And Sabrina Speaks disclaims all liability for any decisions or action taken in reliance on the information presented. So if you're loving all of the content that you're sharing here, please tell your friend, but don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And I'm seeing all of my new followers and subscribers. Thank you so much. We're now also streaming live on all CMR platforms and cmrtv.com. So for those of you just joining us, yes, I kind of went into what the show will be about today. And pretty much my aim is to put it down in layman's terms. What happens now to a Jamaican national who faces life sentence here in our Cayman Islands prison? And, why should we pay to keep him here? Were some of the questions some of people are asking. Can't we just send him back? Would Jamaica be obligated, because this is a Jamaican national, to imprison him? And most importantly, would that feel like justice to the victim's family? So what I want to break down in as simplistic terms as possible, and you are willing to participate in the conversation, is really, what does the law says? What does the law actually say? And I'll give you some basic statistics as to the cost of incarceration here per day. And please note that that does not have a nationality label to it. It's just the cost. The emotional weight for grieving families when you're actually talking about this and you pretty much put a price tag to it. And this is why it's delicate of a conversation, because people are still hurting. He's a son, he's a brother, he's a nephew, he's a cousin, he's a dad, a partner's, I'm not so sure if he was married, but that's besides the point. What I'm saying is it's a human being. They have family, right? And whether justice should even be measured in dollars when we come about here. But the whole takeaway about this is looking at the murder of Devontae Hernandez in September 2023, which was categorized in the public's medium as a calculated execution style killing outside the Liquor for Less, witnessed by children and bystanders alike. I'll never forget that day. But we noticed where on the headlines that George Orlando Sr., a Jamaican national, was found guilty and was sentenced to life in prison, pretty much just 30 years maximum here in our very own Cayman Islands. Now, again, there has been some public outcry calling for deportation, which, because he's been incarcerated or sentenced for more than 12 months, I shared that on an earlier episode when we were dealing with immigration law, that, deportation, because he got sentenced for more than 12 months, is automatic anyhow. But when you look at that, others are demanding for full justice serviced locally as well. So I will actually go back and try to break this down in plain terms, again, explaining everything. Hi, Miss Darlene. It's good to have you here with us. Debbie, if I was a family member of the victim, I would want him to rot in prison. Thank you for sharing your opinion, Miss Deborah. Real Michelle, not to diminish what you are saying, but I can't help but love how beautiful that pink. Oh, thank you so much. It's the month. I've been saying it here. In October, we wear pink, and I was looking at my nails the other, which was horrible, by the way. I did my nails representing the month, and this, oh, thank you. It's just a tie-dye top, but thanks. Paulette Rose, he did not commit the crime in Jamaica. you're ahead of the class. Step up to the front of the class. You will probably be my assistant for this evening, Paulette. But let's break it down because, like I said, it's very emotive. We have heard this comment all the time. Why do we have to pay for them? And all that sort of stuff. But there are even some recommendations that we can consider as well. Yeah, Deborah, if we had an agreement with another jurisdiction, they would be able to, jurisdiction that they would abide to our sentence, then I would say yes. Hey, Miss Beulah, thank you for tuning in. Okay, let's get straight into it in plain terms. Exactly what Paulette said. In the Cayman Islands, as a jurisdiction over crimes when committed right here in the Cayman Islands, regardless of the perpetrator's nationality, okay, once convicted, the sentence must be served here in Cayman unless a formal prisoner transfer agreement exists. And in this particular case, because this perpetrator is originally from Jamaica, unless there's a transfer agreement that exists between Cayman and Jamaica, Jamaica does not have, and we don't have one of those. Even if deported to Jamaica, is not legally obligated to imprison this perpetrator for a crime that he committed and prosecuted here in Cayman. Okay? He could walk free unless Jamaica retries him under their own laws, which, when you look at that now, is rare and a complex process. Okay? So when you're saying about it doesn't matter, this case was topical, but this goes straight across the board for any foreign national, no matter how heinous the crime is. Once they are convicted, they have to, saved by a formal prisoner transfer agreement existing, which in this case, or in general, Cayman and Jamaica does not currently have one, okay? So if they even go back, they could walk freely. And we understand the complexities of it. So when you look at the tension, pretty much, when we look at our systems, our prison systems, we are noticing that, we know for a fact that it's overcrowded, and pretty much it's an average of upwards to CI 70,000 per year per inmate. Yeah. Housing one inmate can cost upwards to 70,000 per year. So should Caymanian taxpayer bear the cost of pretty much imprisoning foreign national long term? Well, you understood that question. I answered that earlier on. As aggravating as it sounds, if we get more of these foreign nationals coming here committing crimes, it is our legal remit, our legal responsibility to house them here. And then when you look at it, another question, could the deportation be cost-saving measures, or would it undermine our justice system? Those are all profound questions. Huge. Deborah, we also have Caymanians who are in prisons around the world. You're quite right. But in one particular case that stands out in the UK, that actually has an agreement built into it. And we saw where they went all to the Privy Council trying to come back here to serve their time. And the Privy Council upheld the original decision. So in that particular case, that's an agreement. Okay. So Livana, hi, good to have you with us. Deborah, if he's sent to Jamaica, he will walk free. Correct. Correct. Because without these agreements, the crime was not committed in Jamaica. Good evening, Marshall. Good to have you here. So let's look at the emotional and ethical questions that could be from the victim's family. Okay. Would sending this convicted killer back to Jamaica feel like justice to Devontae's family? Not without an agreement that would imprison them, with no guarantees that even if the Cayman Islands chose to pay for one's incarceration based on that agreement, there's no way of you proving that it will hold. So the other question could be, does justice mean punishment must be visible and local, or is it enough that he's imprisoned somewhere? But the whole idea with being imprisoned somewhere in this case doesn't hold weight, because we've already established that there's no agreement between Jamaica and Cayman, even if it is a cost savings for us here in the Cayman Islands. And the other question could come up: what message does deportation send to the community about accountability? When you know, again, without the necessary frameworks built into it, that they could actually walk free. So I like your comments that you're actually seeing here, that I'm seeing here, which I will get to them. We could explore a number of bilateral transfers. These are some of the suggestions. But 9368255, if you so incline to join in on this discussion, we're not dissecting the case. We're dissecting where a perpetrator, in this case, someone who's found guilty, who's not Caymanian, what does the law say around where they serve out their time? Livana, I made a comment about it. You're not the only one in another social forums too, Livana, but I also understood that it's not possible from them just to send him back. Yeah, and I know that's infuriating a number of people. Livana, I have seen this. Not only, it's very topical, Livana, why I brought it up today, because this is not the first time that I have seen and I have heard it on a lot of social media platforms. Once they get convicted, let's send them back to their country of origin. No, it's not that easy. Cayman could, though, by the way, explore bilateral prisoner transfer agreements with countries like Jamaica or even CARICOM, because Jamaica is not the only country where we have nationals coming here and committing crimes here. But again, when you use the word CARICOM, everybody thinks freedom of movement. Oh, we're going to get everybody from anywhere. These are some of the conversations that can be had around certain tables when we actually attend some of these meetings, if we attend, because the Cayman Islands is we're not a full member state. We are a partial member of CARICOM. But because of proximity, we will have these things happening. And these are some of the conversations that could be had, or some of the petitions with other British overseas territories that are actually facing this type of crisis or situation. And strength is in numbers. We are associate members of CARICOM, but there's strength in numbers if you can come together with one voice as other associate members of the jurisdiction, as BOTCs, and work it out with CARICOM. Again, it's almost like a class action lawsuit where everybody compiles their resources, make a compelling case, and present it. That's what could be taken into consideration. Lavana, he will walk free and come right back here in Cayman. Yes, you're quite right. So are we more comfortable with him doing his time here despite the cost? And I have to be very careful because, again, you want to be respectful of the family who are still grieving every day of their life. When they look at the child, they're hurting. They're hurting. And even though he's imprisoned, they no longer have that family member with them. That child will never, ever be able to enjoy their parent. Okay? So when we look at this, we can also consider, is it time that we consider conditional deportation after serving part of the sentence? Again, these are all things for discussion. Or is it time for regional Caribbean justice framework for cross-border crimes? But again, we're not an independent small island development jurisdiction. We still belong to the United Kingdom. So it would be interesting. Do you think the Cayman Islands should keep foreign nationals imprisoned here or send them back to their home countries once we build in the necessary framework? So do you think that conversations now should be had, understanding what's happening globally, looking at the high number of inmates that are from other jurisdictions right here in our prisons? Or what does justice look like for you? 936-8255. You can give me your opinion on that. Arthur, foreign nationals who murder people in Cayman Islands to deter those things happen, we need to go back to the days when we hung them down at the gallows, Jotis Bay, and that would deter people from committing murder. Others would see that to be inclined to not go to the midst. Someone just saying the Hood book, I guess this a good book, says an eye for an eye. Okay. Capital punishment is where you're going with that. You would know right now that was actually a consideration here once upon a time in the Cayman Islands, and it did not actually come to fruition, where hanging was considered, and the gallows was actually constructed at His Majesty's prison, and it was never actually used because it did not pass law. So when you look at this, death penalties, that would require a lot of dialogue with the UK, understanding we couldn't make this decision on our own, and we just can't do it. And we are still governed under the UK's laws. And even though it may take a lot of public consultation for that, you'd have to look at the parallel as to what are the laws over there. Now, there are sentencing guidelines. There is a sentencing guidelines that was actually enacted, the Cayman Islands 2024 sentencing guidelines, offenses of dishonesty, but that pretty much has no nationality linked to it. And this comes on the heels of something that was started back in 1998 by Chief Justice Sir Anthony Smellie. And back then, this sentencing guideline provided a framework for exercise of judicial discretion to ensure that sentencing was consistent. Now, back in 2024, this for offenses of dishonesty were actually necessary, and it broadened the context. And this is why it is important that under this particular act for murder and all of that, it pretty much states what happens, and even under the prison law. So again, where we're going with the death penalty here in the Cayman Islands, that is very emotive, and it would require serious public consultation for sure, if this is where we're going to go. But is it just because of it being very emotive? How would people look at it, as you rightfully say, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth? Do we want to go there? It would be interesting nationally where that conversation goes. But the purpose of today was to just make it clear that at the end of the day, anyone who commits a crime here, they have to serve their time out here. Yeah. And at the end of the day, because when it comes to foreign nationals convicted of crimes, there is a lot of confusion. And I'm seeing that, which is why it was important for me to have this conversation. And also a lot of emotions, of course, would be played in. So just sending him back again, and even though it may seem repetitive, it is important that we break it down. It's important that we break it down, because the truth is, Cayman just can't deport somebody after they've been convicted of a serious crime. Because once sentenced, the person becomes the responsibility of the Cayman Islands justice system. There is no automatic right to transfer that prisoner to their country of origin, especially for violent crimes like murder. And in this case, we've established it doesn't matter once they are sentenced here. Another myth too, as well. Jamaica would lock him up anyway? No, not necessarily. Because for those just joining, Jamaica is not legally obligated in this case to imprison someone for a crime committed and prosecuted here in Cayman, unless There's a formal prisoner transfer agreement, and both countries have to agree. Outside of that, he could walk free if sent back there just so. And Cayman and Jamaica, as we said, do not currently have any agreement of the sort. Now, we've seen from Cubans straight down to persons who have been deemed persons non grata, PNG in the system, overstayers, persons who have been convicted of crimes and have been repatriated back to Jamaica. They have come back. Some of them have come back, either assumed identity or based on our porous borders. So here we go. This could repeat itself. And somebody commented here in the comments that he could come back. We know what's happening. So another myth, it's cheaper to deport them. Yes, it's expensive to house prisoners. We've noticed upwards of 70,000 CI per year, but especially long term. But deportation without a legal framework could mean absolutely no accountability. And we got to try and get that with even the operational context of our jurisdiction first before we start looking at prisoners. Because justice, when you look at all of this and look at the families of the victims, justice isn't really just about cost. If you're the victim's family, it's about closure, it's about safety, and it's about the rule of law. So we just can't just send him off and it'll be forgotten. No, that's not how it is. Now, we're overcrowded, another myth. We have no choice but to send them back. As a matter of fact, overcrowding is in fact a real issue here in the Cayman Islands. But releasing or deporting a convicted murderers or, without guarantees of continued imprisonment, in layman's terms, in just a cold, I'm going to use the cold hard truth, undermines justice. What we really need is policy solutions, not shortcut. Like I said, exploring regional agreements and possibly conditional transfers. We have a caller. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Hello, you better be careful. Sandra have that trademark.
Yeah, no, it came right off, it just rolled right off.
I don't trust you. I don't trust you,
That's okay.
I gotta tell you, Sandra, she's encroaching on your territory. I'm just kidding.
It's the same platform. I am fair to fine. I'm giving thanks.
That's awesome.
Honestly, I am just optimistic. I'm looking forward to a very productive week. I got some excellent ideas for show topics lined up. And but I was looking at the comments on all social media platforms. And then I even looked at previous articles where something similar like this happened. And I'm constantly hearing, let's send them back. You know how much cost to the country. And I said, I don't think it would be a bad idea to just have this conversation about it because we're educating each other.
I mean, in my humble opinion, I don't think, and when I say ignorant, I don't mean stupid. I mean ignorant of the law. I just think that we are just not informed of how the
judicial system works,
of how the judicial system and or the process works. But I want to take the conversation in another direction because we are hung up on this part of the conversation, the sentencing and why can't he be deported, but I don't see much outrage for the fact that this person, that our borders are so unsecure, that this person was deported, not from a little island, not from the little island of Tuvalu out in the Pacific. No, from one of the largest countries in the world. There's something called Interpol. And we do have access to it. And when my grandma said, for every rat that you see, there's 100 that you don't see, right? And while I want to express my sincerest condolences to the young man's family, his child, I want to be abundantly clear. This is beyond abhorrent what happened to him. And I'll just leave it there because it's despicable. However, for me, the questions that I have that come to mind for me is that now information has come to light. This young man, this convict was, number one, illegally in the country. He was wanted for overstaying. Cayman is only but yay big. But yay big. How, under another circumstance, he would be, I guess, what we could legally term as the but for cause. Meaning, but for him, but for whatever, X would not have happened. Where am I going with that? And it had no standing in this instance. But what I'm saying is, I'll use an example so that I don't lose people. You have a pet, a dog. You are required to keep that dog in a secure enclosure, and you're also required to walk that dog leashed. That's the leash law in Cayman. Just an example. However, if your dog is not leashed and he's roaming about and bites me, he is the but for cause of my injury. But for you not having your dog unleashed, I would not have been injured. Now that doesn't apply here. And sadly, because I can tell you that if that legal principle applied in this instance, the Cayman Islands government would be forking over millions of dollars to that young man's family. Because had they done their job, had they done their homework, had they apprehended him in a timely manner, this, I can't say with any absolute conviction, this would have likely not occurred. And I can't skip on and get to the let's deport him, blah, blah, blah part, purely because I think that this case in particular has highlighted what we have known for quite some time. Our borders are weak. Our borders are weak. And this one has come to light because a serious crime has been committed. How many more? It's a farce to say that we don't have people. We know that we have people who are overstayers here. What we don't know is how many people we have here illegally. We don't know.
And this is where people were advocating and saying, where is the biometrics? Where is the fingerprinting system for everyone who, well, legally comes through our borders?
Absolutely.
But even if for some weird reason you do not, you gain entry and just pretty much manage to be walking around and you going undetected, if you're actually picked up, where's the fingerprinting system that has been so heavily advocated for? That is something that could easily be assisting in the event one did gain. I really wanted to focus, but I understand where you're going, and it adds context to exactly what I said about porous borders or necessary frameworks and systems put in place to actually nab persons. What if this person actually entered under assumed identity? Let's say they came in under, somebody else's name. If you had biometrics, let's say, that would have picked up, right, or fingerprinting, you see?
But what is more aggravating for me, and I believe should outrage the public, is by all accounts, this man did not enter into the country illegally. He came here via a work permit. I think that's what I read, and if I'm wrong, I stand corrected. He came here via a work permit. What wasn't clear in the article was whether or not they determined that he was an overstayer or he had been deported and had failed to disclose that, which is an offense under, I guess, the immigration Immigration Transition Act, I believe, where that is, whether that was only determined after the offense had been committed or was it was before. And I dare tell you, if it was before, every citizen of this country should be outraged. Outraged. I am going to say this, and people know me. My family operate quite a number of boats. And we just recently actually had a family member who has been around boats all of my life, and I'm almost 40 years old, actually come into the island, bringing a boat out of the jurisdiction. We had a bit of issues with communicating with him, and we'd kind of lost a little bit of touch. We spoke with the various government agencies, and such to try to ascertain some information about him, and we were kind of told that nobody could get him. He was within 7 to 11 miles, which is so 12 miles out is considered our territorial waters. Roundabout, I'm sure if I'm wrong, my grandfather will correct me. He was between 7 and 11 miles. So I would safely say in the Cayman Islands waters, and nobody knew. The Coast Guard did, and I dare tell you to tell them that that's not true, because we have it. We have the evidence. We actually sought their assistance once we had lost communication in trying to get some information about my relative, and that is just one of the ways in which we know our borders are wide open. And it just, I know we can't be everywhere all of the time, but again, for me, before I can get to the sentencing and being outraged about where he should serve his sentence, I understand the legalities of why that needs to be done there. As much as it's not pleasing to me, I understand it. And I know it's not clear for a lot of people, and they have all right to feel how they feel and be outraged about it and request what they want to request or speak their piece, so to speak. But I think it starts with securing our borders. I think it starts with making sure that we have the proper operational and administrative chains and such in place. And like, the fences are weak, or in some instances don't exist. I just gave you a classic example now. There was nothing untoward going on there. This was literally someone who purchased a boat, bringing it back to the country, who had left via air, coming back via sea. But we had spoken to the various government departments to say, hey, we're not getting them. Nobody could get them. He was within the Cayman Islands borders, and they had no undetected. Undetected. And what I'm saying is, he wasn't on a dinghy. He wasn't on a dinghy. I assure you, it wasn't a dinghy. So what are we doing? Because if he can do it, and nothing untoward going on, what about the dinghies?
But this is where the advocacy for proper radar detection, proper conversations with our bordering brothers and sisters is vital. And this is where now you're in the process of providing funding, about to embark on or finalize a budget that will take them through the year 2026 and 2027. Will they now be funded yet again?
Probably.
But not only that, hold on. I can actually speak, because as the former Minister of Home Affairs, I can recall myself and another ministry of tourism funded, gave monies from our ministries to be forwarded so that we could contribute to radar detection services. The ministers did what they had to do. Now, why haven't it yield fruit? You understand?
I am personally at a loss for words. Why Cayman as a first world country, we not short of nothing. We ain't short of nothing. That we are still lagging behind some developing countries when it comes to border protection and just what I think is just national security issues. I don't know. I probably gonna be that when I grow up. I watch all of these shows all of the time. Where, particularly out of Australia, where Sabrina turns up in Australia and Sabrina says she's coming there to work, and by the time they dig down, shake down, and walk down, they searched Sabrina's phone. They determined that Sabrina's coming to work at some bar on, I don't know, Doodaloo Street. And she's coming there to work illegal, and she's not, in fact, a visitor. 2 tours. Her behind was put back on that flight, back to where she came from. What I'm saying is, why are our borders so weak? Where is the Friday pot wagon? I want a Friday roundup, and I don't mean at the bar. I mean, we have so many issues that I think, from an immigration perspective, an immigration enforcement perspective in this instance, that we could crack down on a lot of issues.
But it's in tandem with also the Coast Guard, Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. It is a multi-agent approach, which is why when it came to finding savings in alternate ministries, it was a no-brainer for the minister then of tourism to say, look, minister, I get you. We could do this because it's going to impact our tourism product.
Absolutely.
If this is what we need to do in order to secure our borders, to help be able to detect out on our seas, and it's also some safety to our men and women, brave men and women of the Coast Guard as well, that if they know, that's an added layer of security that would actually span throughout our 3 islands. But as Denny commented here, the Cayman Islands government refuses to establish a EEZ zone boundaries, and he's sighing on that, So it takes some negotiation between the country's leaders. I know there was negotiations between Cuba and how far, if they wanted to actually, when they wanted what they were setting out as a marker, and I'm going based off of memory, they would have actually, for those who are off Cayman Brac, they wanted to come in as close as Lawford Bank.
Oh, well, I don't know what Lawford Bank is.
No, what I'm saying is that was actually in our fishing waters, where if we had conceded to what Cuba was asking for, where our guys sustain themselves on Pickle Bank and Lawford Bank and all of those, that would be deemed Cuban's waters. So that is very delicate. Likewise for even further into Belize, Honduras, that way. So these are all head of government.
But I promise you, ain't nobody fool enough. And the ones that have been fool enough to try to run board countries like Cuba, they met their fate. They met their fate.
My point. But until these negotiations continues, it's almost like no man's land. And this is why it's important.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. If I can say this, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
That's a fair point. But we have onshore immigration crimes being committed. We have it happening onshore. Sabrina works for Siobhan, yet Sabrina is down by, I don't know, pick a bar, moonlighting, but she got a NANA permit.
Working outside terms and conditions.
I can pick Denny. Denny owns, I don't know, Denny's restaurant. He has a permit for Siobhan, but Siobhan is actually working in a beauty salon. We have, I cannot move on to the judiciary part of what's occurring here, because that is the last and final phase.
And
that
accountability.
Cannot be undone.
Accountability.
That cannot be done. But where do we start taking responsibility, being proactive rather than reactive, so that we can say our borders are as secure as we can make them. And I think it starts with the things that I said, cracking down. Why the government, my God, I've been hearing about it forever, why the government in 2025 does what that we do not submit fingerprints. Like I said, in developing countries, it is a must. It is a must. What makes us so special or different, rightly or wrongly, that we don't want to do this? What are we afraid of finding out? That we can know all the criminals that we got among us?
I could be honest with you. I think a lot of it has to do with the pace of delivery of some of these things, because there's so much layers of even procuring these equipment and these instruments that, so help me Christ, it could take an entire term just to come to an end. It's when you're looking at our borders,
we'll never get there. But if we never start, we'll never get there.
I agree, but it's not that it hasn't been started. Why hasn't it come to full circle?
No, they don't want it done. They don't want it done.
I would be,
and that's the only conclusion me as a regular person out there can say. It must not be important. It must not be important. And then it becomes important when we, and this is not me picking on foreign nationals, let me be clear. Because what I'm saying is, when you go in, if you've had the pleasure of visiting the United States, when you go in there, I dare anybody who is not a US citizen or an American to tell them, I'm not giving you my fingerprint. You got to be back on the plane that you came.
I hope you know. Only then they're going to dig you up.
You got to be back on the plane that you came, and they don't care. They don't care. And I keep saying, I just can't help but feel like we are moving so slow toward progressive legislation that is intended on protecting the country. This is, to me, an issue of national security. We do not know who we have among us, because you and I both know that you can get a clean police record from Tuvalu. We're going to use Tuvalu today. You can get a clean police record from anywhere in the world if you have the right contact and the right amount of money. Clearly, the man in this example that we have here discussing today was able to present a clean police record.
But then
he must have, right?
Have we proven that the name that he is who he is?
But how will we prove it, though? How will we prove it if we don't even have
a central
the capacity
database
to
for?
do so? We don't even have the capacity to do so. I am not with any degree of certainty, and I would love to be wrong. I would love for someone to call me in and say, no, you're actually wrong. I do not even think that we have a expert document examiner on this country. As in, somebody coming in with a fake passport. I don't even think that we have anyone on the island who has the capacity.
There are certain scanners that they're thing, and in the part of training CBC officers, they look for key elements and unifiers on any travel document that is supposed to actually align with the issuing country. However, we're noticing now that persons could, without biometrics, finger scanning, that maybe I could show up as Siobhan.
Exactly.
And the document is legit. But how are you going to prove, without fingerprinting, without facial recognition, without biometrics, that the document that I'm holding is really me?
Didn't we have, forgive me if I get the country wrong, didn't we have, and I won't say, let me not say the country, we also had an individual who was his own work/immigration issuing work permits from his house. He didn't get deported. And that's another thing, and I'll leave you there after this. I want to also inform the public that deportation after a custodial sentence is not mandatory.
Nope.
It is not mandatory. It's not a requirement. It's actually not even in legislation. Let me see if I can word this correctly. The judge has the ultimate discretion. However, the judge does not have the capacity to say, and at the end of your prison term, you will be deported. That recommendation has to come from the respective department, in this case, I don't know if they're still Immigration or Work or CBC or what they are.
Immigration Act and Customs Act.
Correct. Those responsible persons for border control and persons being able to stay here, they would have to make a recommendation to the court that at the end of this individual sentence, that they be deported. In this case, I think it's a no-brainer that would be, but I mean, albeit I think it's like 3 or 4 years. We don't wait a while. However, there's another part of that argument, because I think I also read that the person convicted was also married in Cayman and I believe had a child. Deporting that individual may actually be an infringement of his human rights.
There we go. Again, another layer of laws. Another law.
But let me take you back to my original comment, which was, had we had the proper mechanisms in place to detect criminals from the onset, as in your foot touched this land legally, as in you came by probably cleaning, going through immigration, and talking about coming on a dinghy, he may have never set foot in this country. We wouldn't have to worry about any of those immigration infringements. And under the principle of clean hands, one would say, but you started bad, you can't end good. As in, well, he came here illegally, so should he be afforded the right of founding a family, right? And having that argument, my child lives here, albeit I'll be in prison, but I have a right to be here with my child, and my child has a right to see me in this country. For me, I would say, well, you started off bad, as in you came here under false pretenses. Does that apply? No, I'm not by any stretch, a human rights lawyer. And I think that I would say no, purely on the basis of the fact that you started off bad. And under the clean hand principle, which may not apply because that's a doctrine of equity, I would say no, because, like, again, you came here, your act of being here illegally should have precluded you from moving on or making a claim under the HRA. However, that may not be the case. So it is not as cut and dried as we believe it is. It is not as easy as we think it is. Pack up your things and leave. We don't want you here. It's not that simple. And we have layers and layers of legislation. And when you think it's only one piece of legislation, no, my dear, I just introduced another.
There are a number.
The Human Rights.
Yeah.
The Human Rights Act.
But information from the courts, the director under Section 8 in the Immigration Regulations 2025, it clearly reads, the director of work shall at least once every month
produce a list
obtain from the courts a list of all convictions, divorces, and relative particulars relating hereto, and monthly reports from the police and registrar of births in order for the director of work to ascertain whether or not any person should be allowed to remain in the islands. That's every month. Again,
how do we, as the public, how do we feel comfortable? How are we sure? How do we become, I guess, comfortable that this is happening? We can't, because we don't know. Is this something that the public can FOI? Is this information?
Of course. I mean, anything can be FOI'd. I see where Denny, that was obviously, he commented before. No, but what I'm saying is you can ask it, and if you can't get it, then they have to explain. But not asking the question doesn't help either. I noticed where Denny says, nothing prevents the court from asking whether such recommendation will be made in writing, and if not, why not? Well, we are seeing right here under immigration regulations where it's automatically in regulations that these lists should be sent to the director of work, period, on a monthly basis. So something as high profile as this, like what you caller are saying, Siobhan, you're saying how much are going undetected? If there's supposed to be a list that's provided anyhow from the courts, from register of birth as well, we have kids that are living here for 5, not to digress. The worst case I've seen was a kid was here for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was undetected.
Yeah. How does that happen?
So,
because as I've said, there's not an absence of legislation. There's an absence of enforcement of legislation. And for the love of me, for the love of God, I don't understand how people charged with these things still have a job.
Caller, it is simply because there's no accountability. And again, one of my topics this week will actually educate you on a lot of what you've just said right there. And I'm going to break it down. I'm going to deliberately break it down. The roles.
But again, like I think we spoke about this, and I don't want to go off on that tangent, but they're separate arms of the government. Right? And I think most people understand that. And I'm saying, how can we have a world-class civil service when the administrative arm is not administrating?
Because they're not being held accountable.
They are the people on the ground. And this is not for those civil servants who truly are world-class, because let me be clear, there are some that are. There are some that are. But right now, the heads that should be rolling are the ones that we're talking about now. Who's responsible for getting the list from the court? Who's responsible for following up to make sure that there was a recommendation for Sabrina to be deported upon her sentence? Because guess what? You know who doesn't have access to know that Sabrina should be deported? The prison. The prison.
Or let's say that these lists are coming. And by the way, you've gotten 2 requests to be applauded and a kaboom. Siobhan deserves a kaboom, and someone earlier had said the same thing too. But who's to say that these lists aren't probably showing up, but not necessarily in accordance to law? And then even if it lands
showing up in accordance with the legislation, then
they're in breach.
They're still wrong.
They're in breach.
Exactly.
And then who is going to execute the findings of these reports is another thing. On 2 earlier podcasts, I stated, I feel we have come to a point where there needs to be another department or a section within immigration, just for broad context, that has to look for all of these things and point them in the right direction. Because if you really want to say we're going to deal with reforms, they're going to need better functioning processes, proper strategic plan in order to execute if they want to actually uphold. But you need the buy-in of the operational arm in order for that to be executed. Otherwise, it's just wind. They have to be funded. They have to be with the right processes.
Well, you just said something there that kind of.
But it has to be bought in. It has to be bought in.
They have to have buy-in.
Well, if the civil servants don't buy into it, how are they going to execute? They'll drag their feet.
I'll tell you what. I've worked in private sector all of my career, and I'll tell you what. One of my HR directors used to say, if you are hired to sweep, then by God, you damn sweep. And the day that you don't want to sweep, come upstairs, let's have another conversation.
But Siobhan, the layers of bureaucracy, the amount of paperwork is what's frustrating, even holding persons accountable. And what I'm saying is,
But the solution can't be to just not hold them accountable.
I understand, but we can see what's happening.
Job, so we could just let her. We could just let her go and just let her have at it. Come to work, do as she pleases, and actually not do her job. That's what we're going to do. That cannot be the solution.
Did you see the Auditor General's report on the 2025? I'm going to do a show on that, and I am fearful. I am fearful that may be the first and last article that person writes.
Oh, I know.
Because that's the Caymanian. I don't care. That is someone who's doing their job. That's someone who's doing their job.
And I said, sir, I don't know how much longer you will have this job.
No, but you know what, sad Siobhan, that came into your mind and it crossed my mind because he is doing his job. And
Absolutely.
if, for full disclosure, if any other reports coming out of the Auditor General's office is diluted after that, Houston, we have a problem.
Absolutely.
That is someone who is doing their job, calling it for what it is. And for those of
And
you
the
who don't
Caymanian,
know,
don't forget,
and
don't
they
forget.
are a Caymanian. So can that Cayman probably be placed to another department? Or will that Caymanian be out of a job?
We don't know.
Because we don't know. Watch the space.
We shouldn't have said nothing because
What?
now we
No,
might be,
I have to
we
say it
might be
because I'm going to bring it
jeopardizing the
up.
poor man.
No, this could probably solidify his position because now they know that we are awake and we're watching.
I don't think that they don't know that we are awake. I think they have no fear. I think they have no respect.
Well,
Because
then that
for
would
you to
erode
know-
trust. That goes back to what I've been saying on all of my podcasts. Our laws and policies and practices reflect the people.
Absolutely.
And that is the
what I'm
public's
saying,
money
but
now.
Absolutely, but where we know there's already no accountability, who is going to hold the non-accountables accountable? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? You and Siobhan?
Let me repeat it again, Siobhan. The silent majority can no longer remain silent.
Well, I hope so, because
Poor me.
sometimes
Poor me. No, look.
sometimes I
They're afraid
feel
you
like
get blackballed. You don't like that term. And I know why you don't like it. Me and you can share
sometimes
that.
I feel like I am.
But do we
Sometimes
roll
I
over
feel
and
like
play
I'm
dead?
I'm sticking my head up, sticking my neck out for people who aren't even willing to stand up and raise their hand in solidarity and say, this is also happening for me. But they want Sabrina stick her neck out, Siobhan stick her neck out, and get your head knocked off. And
But
sometimes
Siobhan,
you don't even benefit.
we can deal with this, but deal with it facts. I have never brought an episode of Sabrina Speaks that I don't have the law to back it up. If you don't like what I'm reading, change the law. And in order to change the law, that's bipartisan. Even opposition has to weigh in on it. I have not presented anything here that I'm reading the law.
Listen, you and I are on the same, like we on the same team. We don't have an absence of laws. I think I banged on about that ad nauseum. It's enforcement. It's accountability. It's responsibility. It's, again, like I said, if your job is to sweep, then damn sweep. Mm-hmm. But don't come in or get out of the way and let the sweepers sweep. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to sweep. But this doing nothing can no longer work. Being quiet can no longer work.
I see.
Look
Gina
at where
Wilson.
we are today.
Gina Wilson just commented, we cannot continue to make excuses for the operating arm of government. It's high time people earn their pay. Come on now, is what they're saying. Denny also said, any government pressuring the Auditor General is in breach of Section 19 of the Constitution order.
Tell him, Denny. Tell him.
And Damian Henry is saying weaponized incompetence. Denny further state, that is the responsibility of the Auditor General and the Ombudsman. The public are the stakeholders who are the ones responsible for holding the government accountable. But
absolutely,
yes, well said. And I mean, like you said, if they would be in breach of the Constitution, we have even brought up here about the Constitution where we're in breach of that with so many other things. It's diluted some of the conversation that we're having. It's like it's there, but we only refer to it when it's convenient almost. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting how this one plays out.
Well, I guess I will. I don't even know what to say anymore. And again,
we cannot give up though, Siobhan. I'm sorry.
sorely disappointed. I am sorely disappointed. This case, to me, is just one of, and again, for every one that you don't see, every one that you see, there's 100 that you don't. Mm-hmm. And I am not going to be so ignorant to suggest that all of the crimes that are being committed in this country are being committed by foreign nationals. Never. I would never suggest that.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would
However-
ever say that either.
However, we have to start with someone and somewhere, and to sit on our hands and tie our hands and we don't know where to start. Just start. Like we want to see something. We want to see some sort of action. We want to see some sort of progression. We want to see some sort of moving forward. And again, if it is Sabrina's staff on the work front line that is responsible for going out every Friday and doing a Friday roundup in Patawaga, then by God, Sabrina's staff better get out and do it, or Sabrina's staff need to go have another conversation. And the idea that your staff can decide that they are not going to do their job, and that's okay, is not okay. It's not okay. And when are we going to say it's not okay? And let me end here. Again, I'm not suggesting that all of the civil service is not world class. There's some world class civil servants.
Exactly.
Right? But to the ones that want to be mediocre donkeys, they got to go. They have to go. They're giving the rest of the entirety of the government a bad name. There is one department, and I won't call it because they know me very well, but you can show up there. They're front-facing staff any day of the week. There's two or three sitting down on the counter. They're on their phone, playing with their hair, and their backs to the door. You walk up there and you're standing there and you're like, I actually took a photo one day and I was going to send it to the DG to just let him know that this is not okay. I'm not advocating for nobody to be fired.
But I'm going to be honest with you. The DJ wouldn't know what's happening. That responsibility actually falls on the director of that department. And I'm quite sure they have supervisors as well. So what's happening? You got layers and layers and layers, and then your deputy governor is at the very top. And then he's depending on the chief officers. The chief officers are depending on the directors of the department. The directors then are expecting the supervisors or senior members of staff to hold the lower tier.
I agree.
And nobody is double checking accountability. But you're hearing the complaint. Something is wrong.
Guess what though? The civil service is also the largest employer of Caymanians in this country.
Correct.
Okay? And having worked in the private sector all of my career, when I get persons coming from the civil service, not in all instances, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment for me to hear, oh, girl, Sabrina came from the government. What a hot mess she is. It's an embarrassment. Okay? And I hear the remarks, girl, I work government, girl, I work at government, I hear people saying, you want easy life? Go work government. Why is that? Again, it just feels like a paid vacation, just fly by the seat of your pants and and then there's some civil servants who work day in, day out, tirelessly.
Yes, and are not even recognized.
Who take pride in their work, who take pride in delivering excellent service, who are actually there and saying, Sabrina, listen, you need to pull your socks up. They may never complain about you, but they're there in your ear constantly saying, yo, get it together, pull your socks up. I have higher requirements when it comes to employment. I have higher requirements for Caymanians than I have for anyone else. I expect you, once given the tools, to perform at a top level. I expect you to show up. I expect you to be on time. I expect you to be well-groomed. And yes, I am going to be harder on you than I am going to be on any other staff member. You know why? Because to get the job, we got to work twice as hard. And to keep it, we got to work 3 times as hard. And when the narrative that is very common is, sure, you'll go work for government. It's pretty sad. But I'm going to leave you there because I could go on ad nauseum, and I will continue to listen in.
Thank you so much. Always very inspirational. Let me just do another. I hope that this doesn't come across weird. I hope that was loud enough now for Siobhan. I was hearing that it was coming across a little bit weak. But yeah, these are some of the the things that is actually bugging us with our system. And I'm looking at some of the comments. Good evening, Sabrina. We need to talk up to protect our whistleblower too much, have been kept under the rug. So it is great that things are coming to light. But as Danny actually said, you know, one of the issues is that complaints need to be officially made, not just raised on a radio show. And Danny, you are quite right. There's one thing of airing it. There's another thing of who's willing to put pen to paper and really log an official complaint. And these are some of the apathy, the resistance, because people are saying, well, yeah, I know it's happening, but I have my mortgage. I need my job. I don't want to be blacklisted. It's quite interesting because I have been told that the reason why I'm not there is because I spoke up. I spoke up, and that I actually looked for accountability. And contrary to what others say, it is exactly what persons like Siobhan, Danny, yourself is saying. You're looked at as antagonizers. And the more that we speak up, there's not too many of us would be that vocal. This podcast is really to educate and inform. If you look at the subjects that I am bringing, I am trying to raise my people up with knowledge that I am imparting on you. It's not, as Siobhan alluded to earlier on, that we're saying we're dumbing it down because we think you're stupid, that you fool, or sometimes it may seem as though I'm repetitive. I have to be repetitive because at various times people come in on this show and they're trying to navigate, well, what is she saying? And they may only catch a portion of what I'm saying, because you saw where someone says we need to send them back home. If that person goes back, they will understand why we can't send these perpetrators back home to serve their time. And that is the type of conversations that I'm trying to break. So when you see certain situations at hand and you want to comment, you're commenting from a sound legal perspective. And if we all start doing that, then maybe we will see a change. I can understand some of the topics are very emotive, right? They are very emotional. You can get angry. I was listening to Sandra's show this morning and I heard someone appealing in regards to a mom not getting referrals. And I could hear the anger because it's like, and that came about when I think some of the realities hit home that we're blaming one person. It got to the point where, respectfully, she managed her tone, but I understood the emotions. Pretty much what she said, I don't care. My mom needs a break. You see, when I heard that, that's the breaking point of anybody who is fighting and a system that is failing. Now you put that on a national perspective and it goes back to accountability. If it continues to be ignored, at some point, your people are going to reach a breaking point. And I'm so happy that that commenter stated, these are a lot of our Caymanians that are in these positions within the operational arm of the civil service, AKA I'm referring to them as our gatekeepers. They are our very own, even though we're hearing that it's being flooded now with people from other jurisdictions. They're on contracts. Some may have been acquired status. We're not going there. We're looking at their role, their responsibilities. They are some of the very same ones that would be responsible or tasked with writing policies that you're commenting about right here, what we should do, some of the ideas that or some of the policies could explore in regards to this topic. You know, and for the sake of bringing it back to the topic, even though we were looking at where do perpetrators, convicted persons serving time who are not Caymanians in our prison should spend their times. And if you're feeling that it's just too much and we're just getting inundated with all of these foreign nationals, maybe some policymakers could explore, like we said at the beginning of the show, prisoner transfer agreements with countries like Jamaica, like other jurisdictions that we know that they're home, but only with guarantees of continued incarceration. They could also, and I saw one commenter also said, conditional deportation after part of the sentence is served here. But again, will the victims of these persons feel that justice is served? You can also, again, our policymakers could probably explore and consider whether or not a regional justice framework could be looked at through CARICOM. We're associate members. We may not be at the big table, but there's strength in numbers with our other BOTC jurisdiction that are actually sitting at the CARICOM table. Because I'm quite sure that, like Bermuda and the other BOT's jurisdiction, they may have persons incarcerated in their prisons as well from other countries. If this is identified as an issue, again, come together as one and consider a regional justice framework through CARICOM, because we're already speaking to them anyhow. And like I said, we're associate members. There's some tables if we send representation to some of these meetings, this is something that they could actually embark on. You can also possibly look at victim-centered review boards to ensure that families are heard before any transfers are considered, if that's where we're going to end up. But when you look at it, none of these suggestions are easy fixes. Not at all. It's easy for us to share in our suggestions, to have public dialogue, to flag it, to put a spotlight on it. But they're steps towards a system, as our caller alluded to, that we're making a step that is also, in this case, from some of these suggestions that could be explored, not only fair, but also possibly sustainable. They are not easy fixes. I have to repeat that. Let's go to some of our comments. George, good evening. Long time no see. If the DG smells smoke, why would he sit on his butt and wait until someone comes to tell him that something is burning? He should immediately get up and try to find out for himself. Sometimes, George, not speaking on behalf or for the deputy governor, if certain things are actually brought to his attention, he then tasks one of his persons to send an email to the relevant either ministry's CEO, or sometimes with his power, he can go directly to the director of that respective department, or as you have described, and he's only hoping then that they are declaring the truth. Now, we're hoping that all communications being shared with them are not sugar-coated and that it is truthful. With a civil service of 4,500 persons, it's not easy to manage everyone. That's literally micromanaging. But based on the little time that this podcast has been live, George, for the amount of complaints that we're hearing, something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong with reporting, with accountability, with making sure persons are actually performing to the standards in which they should be required to do in the execution of their duties. So, George, I hear you. But again, that says there needs to be an overall definite look into the operational arm. And we cannot dismiss, please, civil servants, please, gatekeepers of our legislation. This is not painting everyone with a broad brush. This is exactly just speaking the truth. There are common citizens out here that are complaining. There are persons who are trying to use the services that can only be accessible because government is the only agency that offer a lot of these services. And everyday persons are actually commenting, complaining, frustrated. And right now, where the topics are going, Nationally, there's a sense of frustration. There's a sense of frustration with persons upholding the law. There's a sense of frustrations with persons not being held accountable. There's a sense of frustration that really and truly, it's not becoming of our leaders that is being elected in order to be able to deliver at peace. And then it makes it appear as though our elected arm is not doing as they're told. Now, this is a balancing act by both the elected arm and the civil service, who is the action arm, the operational arm. But if funding is a problem, then you have to fight for it. And if the funding is provided, as we heard the commissioner of police alluded to, it's not that the money wasn't given by the ministers. It just was not received. Why? That's the operational arm. Could we be that much more ahead with certain things that funding was given for? Where's the radar money? Where's the biometrics money? Very interesting. So again, there is serious accountability infractions, outright blind eye being placed, or is it deliberate? We'll soon find out. Denny, I imagine that Cayman would still have to fund the incarceration of persons who is transferred to their homeland. Yes, but that's only, Denny, if it is an agreement. That is a choice as well. You could actually pay. And then again, like everything else, Denny, even if the Cayman Islands decides to pay to have a foreign national incarcerated in their country of origin, who is, again, ensuring that the terms and conditions periodically is being met? Who is to ensure that periodically you will go and visually see that individual is indeed incarcerated, and do spot checks to see if really that's being done? Some may say, oh, Sabrina, you're taking it too far. Really? You're automatically saying it right here, right in this space. Who is watching them? Who is holding them accountable? Sometimes you need to put spotters. It's your money, you know, Cayman Islands. It's your money that's paying them to deliver. But again, that takes strategy. That takes a strategic plan. It's actually watching to make sure that everyone is doing their job. Again, new job opportunities maybe require a financial, it may hit a financial, it may cause finances, it may have a financial implication, but it may actually make you, the people, feel, okay, I'm going to hold this department accountable for making sure that this ministry is doing what they have to do. And then that department feeds up then to the DG. He may actually have, for the incoming DG, you may actually have to look at a department that really oversights and answers to you. Separate and apart. Because it is impossible for the succession of a new deputy governor, even though this one is on his way out. This may be a legacy that lasts forever for you. Or this may be a good idea for the incoming DG. Strategy matters. A systems for accountability is imperative. And if that is where you're hemorrhaging, I just gave you an idea. Let's see what George is saying. Check out their bank accounts and compare their salaries. Let's see how the scale reacts. Again, I just said you can have an entire department that looks out for all of those things, George. You can have an entire department that feeds up to the office of the deputy governor, who then is governed by the governor and the DG. But it's an extra pair of enforcement eyes, strategic compliance, and all of that. And look at all of these pieces of legislations for holding the operational arm accountable. That's all that department will be doing. Yeah, maybe they can get involved in some policy as well, but to not take away from their core function is overseeing the operational arm, making sure that they are acting in accordance to what they should be doing. It's going to take a little, it's going to take a little bit of thinking caps, but this cannot be one where you come in, where nepotism, a friend, giving someone a favor. This has to be just as fair, unbiased, and balanced, where it doesn't matter if I worked with you for years. It doesn't matter who you are. This is the law. This is accountability. If you fall afoul of that, here's a report. Here's the recommended breaches or ways of dealing with it, because our people, our country deserves that. And if that's where it's hemorrhaging, again, that's an easy fix. Sabrina, we're talking about a smoke detector. Why ignoring it? Yeah, it is telling you that something is burning. I know. You're telling me that you're going to call the fire service to stay and stay on the couch. No, I get you. I get your analogy, George. Trust me, I do. I get it. Arthur, is there an internal affairs department in government? If not, there should be. Well, even if there is, maybe they need to ramp up their mandate. Maybe it's time for an overhaul, because we see where the environment is changing. We see where the types of cases and accountability issues now that is actually surfacing to the top is becoming a lot. And based on your feedback, your participation, we're seeing where this could be a definite area. I don't really feel, Arthur, that it should be a case where it should only be burdened on one department. It's one thing where immigration is responsible for receiving reports. And I'll go back to the regulations again, because it's that important. But even our lawmakers are entitled to see these reports. Under the Immigration Regulations 2025, Section 7, in Regulation 7, it says periodic reports to the Cabinet. The board or director of work shall submit a detailed report to the Cabinet outlining the number of work permits granted, extended, and revoked during the previous quarter. Now, that's only as it pertains to work permits, okay? But what I'm saying is, for each department, something like this as an oversight could be done from like the personnel side of things. It's a hybrid, guys. We're trying to start. But Section 8, information from the courts, etc., of the same regulation says the director of work shall at least every month obtain from the courts a list of all convictions, divorces, relatives, particular relating hereto, and monthly reports from the police and the register of births and other directors of work to ascertain whether or not a person should be allowed to remain in the islands. Now, I've deliberately used that similar to what George is using for the fire alarm. These reports should be done from an operational arm that feeds up then to the office of the deputy governor. So that is a perfect analogy. And then that department is responsible for looking under the Personal Management Act, then how persons are performing. And it is quite interesting how this can evolve into a very effective department, and making the people of the Cayman Islands feel that the operational arm is just not really for a free ride. You would have remembered the podcast that I had where Miss Joy Basdeo was on, and she was saying that there needs to be a total different department that looks and do due diligence on all, because she was looking more at frivolous marriage of convenience, and that sort of stuff. So you're seeing where for that purpose, that's also warranted. Now I'm looking at a similar structure, but for the operational arm of government, if you get where I'm going with this picture. So even if it is that department, internal affairs departments in government, maybe their mission, their strategy, how they approach certain things may have to be revisited or looked at different. Damian Henry, would human rights be a barrier for some of these individuals? Yes, it would. And Ms. Siobhan actually alluded to that there are a number of different pieces of legislation that would have to be taken into consideration, which is why I said some of these are not easy fixes. And people do have under the Constitution a right of appeal. if it is a case that one wants to appeal. So there's layers and layers and layers. And then you, the people, are like, well, where is our rights with all of this? We have to look at this. So it's frustrating is what people are saying. Will they, George? Who knows? I don't know. Denny, the Attorney General and government needs to stop obstructing the Ombudsman. You're alleging that they're stopping them? I'm just asking. Devil's advocate. George, birds of a feather flock together. Dean, when a tree is full grown, crooked, they're used in trimming the branches to hope it will straighten. The whole tree needs to cut down, root removed, and a new tree planted. Well, I'm hoping you were saying that in regards to the incoming or whoever that is going to be for the next deputy governor. But I'm hoping that definitely you will feel refreshed. I don't know. I think that a good foundation has been laid, all due respect, from where we're coming from and where we are. But can there be improvement? You can be the judge of that for everything that you've heard here. And for reasons which I will keep for myself right now, I can give a different spin on it, having been in the elected arm. But this is why this space is yours. I can see it from both sides, having been a former civil servant myself. But I was one of those who really showed up to work. Really, really, I can only speak for myself. In those days, immigration was a charm. Everybody was different. And I know Dawn Hides, I used to work with her, and even the deputy governor himself, we were really a team. We were producing. What has happened now? I don't know. And that's only based on my experience with being in immigration. I done a number of exercises with a lot of, when I say superb, top-notch enforcement officers, Linares, Anthony, Patrick McField, all of them just come to mind. And we were really enforcing, and we were just one department there and then. We took people to court. We were doing what we were supposed to do. So why has that somewhat diluted? Even Jeremy. And I worked with him. So I don't know, guys. I don't know what has happened. Arthur, periodic, every now and again. Why do you think it has been written in that way? There we go. Well, again, the great reform, we can put it, must. Again, we're getting, so this is a takeaway, Arthur. Maybe this is one of the things that you can suggest when the public consultation comes out and the great immigration reform that you says periodically should be a must. Denny Warren, a committee of the whole House should provide the oversight with heads of departments testifying under oath. Good suggestion. You think that isn't happening on some scale now? But when they're asking, it's not finance committee, it's the other one, public account committee, but that's more for oversight of finances. So what I'm looking at is the operational arm. Right now, sometimes when civil servants get called to some of these board, public account committee, it feels as though you're throwing Scud missiles at them. And I'm going to be very honest with you, some of the staffs are not very comfortable based on the environment sometimes and the way in which questions are being asked. And I could get some pushback for this because they're there as the gatekeepers. And some may say, well, who cares how they feel? We give them the money as the elected arm. It is their duty to execute, make sure that they're getting fair and value for money. So what if they come before the Public Accounts Committee and being questioned? That is our right to question them. But not everybody is good under pressure like that. But they must understand their role when they're a chief officer, when they are a chief financial officer within some of these ministries, what that responsibility brings with them. And fortunately, that role, or unfortunately, that role actually requires that you may be called to Public Accounts Committee to answer why certain things are going afoul, or should people not feel satisfied that things are happening, or should they have any issues with how monies are being spent. We've seen where in the Auditor General's report, procurement as well has been pretty much ignored. Who are the gatekeepers for that? But that's another show. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Good evening. Did you work there when Greg, the Oscar and Gavin working?
Yeah, Garvin, Oscar. Yes, the Oscar is the one with the.
They were about it to them. He used to say some down and make them jump in canal. They need them. But I don't know where Greg is. I haven't seen him in years. But I know Gavin.
Gavin he came shortly or just before I left. He was in immigration for sure. But in enforcement.
I'm dragging them by the pants behind to the airport and jumping in canal down Patrick Island.
We used to do that. I did that. I did that as well.
Big Anthony, remember we used to call him California raising? Wow, they were the baddest.
Yeah, Altonda. Yep. Yeah, he and Linares. Those were the days. But I mean, we had less resources those times, caller. And we were actually apprehending offenders.
We outnumbered now with everything. It wasn't hard enough.
Gary Waltler too. I remember Waltler. Yeah, I remember those days like it was yesterday.
Oh, Gary, yeah. So he was. I used to tell him he was straight. You know, he could see him coming there wobbling like a duck.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I know. Yeah, they were the baddest.
So it is.
I was saying, listen, I'm not condemning nobody or nothing, but with this murder case, Sabrina, I not for people taking nobody. Like, I don't care what problem they had, what squall they get in, what the problem was, because I don't know. But I don't think it should have come to that, because taking a person's life is serious. God give life, God should take him. I don't think nobody should take it. And I agree with this, what he was saying about an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That's how I feel, because I think if somebody killed one of my loved ones, and my sister used to say the same thing, I don't think that they should just go to jail and my loved one going to their grave. Like he said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for I don't care who wants to flog me for that, but I think that's a horrible something, because to take a gun and shoot somebody, and then what I think, if they do it, it will make people think. I don't care how crazy, how mad they get, unless they really go right off their rockers and not gonna need a style, everything is gone. They will consider before they take anybody's life. But because they can just go to jail, even if they get life, but they're being treated good, they don't have to worry about food, and especially now that food expensive and all that, and they get medical, and they get everything. So they still live. The front is that they lock up, and their freedom not running, like how they can run the road like everybody else. But then they don't care. Some people don't care. But I think if they see give an injection to somebody and say, well, look, if I kill somebody, I can get the same thing. It will curb murder. That's how I think about it. Everybody take their opinion, but that's how I look at it.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Like I said, that's easy. Just a little ant bite. Just give a little injection, you're going to sleep. That's it.
There we go.
The girl thing or two, what you call it, because, and you got to have good nurse to do that too, because you got to be a good, like I would say, what you call it, to putting rope around people's neck and kicking that thing and all that, but just to stick that little injection, to me, that'll be easy. It's just a doctor and nurse.
Yep. There we go. Thank you there. Thank you for your contribution. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'll give you some closing thoughts for those of you who joined us late, just a recap, and wind it up for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Be right back with you after this message.
Infrastructure is more than roads and buildings.
It's our lifelines connecting East End to West Bay, Cayman to Little Cayman, and the Cayman Islands to the world.
It established the route to get our children to school, keep our hospitals powered, and support our businesses every day.
Through hard work, ingenuity, and perseverance, people make that happen.
From the early pioneers who paved the first paths and laid the first pipes,
to the innovators who modernize water, energy, telecoms, ports, and our airport.
they're the quiet hands that build resilience.
And the vision that keeps Cayman going strong.
Now it's our turn to recognize them. Know someone who built, maintained, or improved the Cayman Islands we love?
Nominate them today at gov.ky/YSCH. Click Nominate today.
Danny, you know you trouble? You want me to host a late show? Oh, that'll be very interesting. But again, who to tell? You need to spill a gap. But no, not a prelude at all. That's how important that is for persons to get their nomination in. And I thought it was only fitting just before really doing a recap for those who may be joining us very late, because I felt, and I want to thank everyone who called in, for those who commented, who are sharing your opinions here and suggestions. And I want to thank you for your participation. But for those, again, I'm just hoping that there are takeaways from this episode of Sabrina Speaks in regards to how we deal with persons who commit crimes within our Cayman Islands, regardless of their nationality. And under our Cayman Islands law, it is subject to Cayman's legal jurisdiction. And that pretty much means once you are convicted, sentenced, they must serve their time here in the Cayman Islands unless there is a lawful transfer that is arranged. And this applies to all crimes, including murder, all sentences, including life imprisonment. And you can find out where this is derived under the prisons law of 2020, and that will cover established lawful confinements, like where these persons can serve their sentence and custody of prisoners here in the Cayman Islands. And specifically 11A affirms the legal authority to detain individuals sentenced under that law. Also, in accordance with the Penal Code of 2024 that I kind of went into, that defines the criminal offenses and sentencing guidelines, including life imprisonment for murder. And it does not distinguish, which was very interesting and something huge to take away. It doesn't differentiate between Caymanians and foreign nationals. That, again, is the Penal Code of 2024 revision. Also, the Immigrations Act and Customs Act, very, very important. Those pieces of legislation may govern deportation after sentence is completed, not during or in the place of a sentence, because deportation is not a substitute for serving time. Okay. And again, no automatic deportation or transfer, because the Cayman Islands does not currently have a prisoner transfer agreement with this specific case with Jamaica or most other countries. It's not automatic. And without such an agreement of that sort, Cayman cannot legally transfer prisoners to another country to serve their sentence. And even if deported, the receiving country, in this case, again, Jamaica, is not obligated to imprison the person unless they are prosecuted, the case independently. And again, we've understood the complexity of that. So I'm hoping that, you realize that the cost is expensive to house our prisoners. Yes, our prisons are overcrowded. Yes, we need solutions, but here's the hard truth. Justice isn't about, again, saving money. I said this at the intro. It's about accountability. It's about closure for families, and it's about the trust of our systems. So, at the end of the day, we all have it here to hold our persons accountable. And I'm hoping that, again, you have found this show very informative. But I've shared with you the facts this evening. I have shared with you a number of pieces of legislations. Denny has shared as well the important role of the Constitution, human rights law, and all of that sort of stuff. And again, it goes back to our gatekeepers, our policymakers of our land. And, I know for a fact that we felt the weight of this again in this episode, the harsh realities. And now, as I want to ask you, really and truly after this, what does justice really mean to you? Do we then go back to looking at the whole death penalty thing? is it enough for a man to be imprisoned, or must he have to serve time where the crime is committed? And can Cayman afford really to carry the cost of foreign incarcerations or the price of protecting our people and honor our laws? Good evening, caller. I'm winding up.
But I know about what I'm saying. I just listening to you, and I'm not sorry, you're not no wrongs, but you say that Cayman can't, if a person send them, say they can't send them to nowhere to.
Not without an agreement, no.
But how they send, I'm not calling on but how they send two Caymanians from northward to England.
You did. You join in late.
England,
you join in late. You join in late. I did explain that there is an agreement.
Well then, it should be agreement about it. But I'm to be corrected too. I understand from people that if they send him Jamaica, they're gonna let him go. He's gonna go free.
Okay, I will implore you to go back after the show ends and watch the entry, because that was explained, the difference. Okay.
I know I heard that, but what that's what I'm saying. But I don't know that they like it, because just yesterday.
That's a total different case, to be honest.
And five people that dead is young people, 22, a 4-year-old, 39-year-old, a 42. That's no man. I don't care what he had. That boy shouldn't have been murdered. People are just cold-hearted murderers.
Okay. Thank you for that. Now, there are no easy answers, but there is power in asking. So let's keep the conversation going. And, because, again, I will say this a number of times. Justice isn't just in the courtroom. It isn't just a courtroom decision, to be honest. It's a community's commitment. It has been a pleasure bringing you another edition of Sabrina Speaks. Until next time, stay bold, stay informed, and never stop asking questions that honestly, truly matters. Until tomorrow, have a good evening.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.